Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how it's alive!
Welcome to Where the Weird Ones Are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
Well, we have inflation because the government is living too well.
Hey, what's going on, dudes and dudettes? This is Drewski from Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies Podcast, and you're listening to Kevin on Where the Weird Ones Are.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Conspiracy Tuesday. I have some phenomenal guests with me tonight. You've seen them all on the show before, so I will give them all a chance to introduce themselves in case you're not familiar. And we'll start with Brad. If you don't mind introducing yourself, letting everybody know where they can find you and your show and all that.
Yeah, what's up, man? Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be a part of this amazing panel with some really amazing people. And Doc and I still haven't done a show together, but we will, I'm sure, eventually. But my name is Brad. I'm the host of the show called The Awaken Podcast, and you can find me on Spotify and Apple, everywhere you get your podcasts. And also, the easiest place to find me is at theawakenpodcast.com. But I talk a lot about conspiracies, paranormal, earth energies. I talk about hidden history, pretty much all the things that everybody talks about. So, but I'm like I said, man, I'm excited to be here and be a part of this panel.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I sometimes it's really hard to get three people together, let alone just one person to come on and chat with me sometimes. So the fact that you guys all are here is amazing, and I'm extremely grateful, and I appreciate it very much. So the fact that you guys are taking the time to spend some time with me to chat about this stuff, it means a lot to me. So, but next, you've heard her on the show at least 7 times now. She's a wealth of knowledge. I love her very much, and her name's Heidi, and she will introduce herself.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure. I love getting together with friends, and that's what I consider you guys. So it's fun times. And I am Heidi Luv of the Unfiltered Rise. I do have my own podcast channel now at unfilteredrisepodcast.com. And that you can find me there or on any of the pod chasers. I talk about a lot of Mormons, and because I was one, and conspiracies for sure, and the occult.
Nice. I listen to you almost every week, so I really enjoy your content. So, and last but not least, Mr. Justin Doc Brown. He just wrote a book. You guys should check it out. Justin, if you don't mind letting the good people know who you are, what you do, and where they can find you.
Yeah, hey Kevin, hey thanks, man. This is the second Tuesday Conspiracy Roundtable, and I think we had 4 the last go around. It was me, you, Drew, and Riley from Midwest Mythos. So I definitely love getting together with other podcasters and having these roundtable discussions, man. It's good fellowship, it's good networking, and we get to bounce ideas off each other. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to orchestrate this and get us together. I definitely appreciate it. But yeah, man, my show's the Prometheus Lens podcast. Kind of coined it the hero's journey. You can find us anywhere you consume content, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all those fine establishments. Same thing with the social medias. And yeah, I just released my first book, The Epic of Esau, The Birthright and Seed War. You can find it on Amazon, $10 for the ebook or 20 for the hard copy. I just got a large shipment of these books, so I'm offering them on my website now. If you want a signed copy, just come on over to PrometheusLensPodcast.com.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, so I've recently got into conspiracies. I think, well, I always kind of was skeptical. I think the first time was when, because I lived through 9/11. That was really the first thing that kind of opened my eyes. I watched it happen in real time. I watched the segment in real life where the reporter says the second plane hit the second tower and it didn't yet. And I was just like, wait a second, what the hell is that? And ever since then, I've kind of been curious about this kind of stuff. So it wasn't until 2020, when all that stuff was going down, when I got like really weirded out by a lot of things that were going on. So I've been learning every day about other things, and these roundtables have helped me a lot. Heidi has enlightened me quite a bit on some things too. So yeah, so today I wanted to talk about Easter, and I think a lot of it is pretty well known at this time. But I know the origins of it wasn't what it is today, and that's what most holidays are. I mean, I never really understood, even as a child, why we have this huge bunny walking around giving us eggs and candy, you know? So I read up on this, I'm going to say her name incorrectly, probably, Estera, the goddess. It's a pagan goddess, of fertility and, renewal. And apparently how the bunny came to be was there was a bird. She had found a bird that was injured, and to save its life she turned it into a bunny, and then the bunny began laying colored eggs for her, to for fertility purposes. And the hair is they're very promiscuous things, because they're a prey animal, so they pretty much reproduce constantly. So that's another reason why they're associated, because spring is the renewal. Obviously, we got the resurrection with the Christian faith, and then what was I gonna say? Where was I going to go with this? We got the resurrection. So I get, from what I was reading, that Aries is supposed to be the first astrological sign. So if Aries is the first astrological sign, why isn't April the first month of the year? You know what I mean? And what I think it was like
Used
the 15th. Yeah, was it really? Because I think
April Fool.
April Fools, yeah.
Ask the church. That all stems
the Catholic
from.
one.
Yep.
Yeah, the Gregorian calendar, they changed the dates. And so when the Christians and the people didn't go with it and honor the Gregorian calendar, they were still celebrating New Year's on April the 1st. So the inside joke was those were the fools, the April Fools, still celebrating New Year's on April 1st.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Because I always knew that was it like the 1300s or even earlier that they changed to the Gregorian calendar, right? Because we originally had 13 months or something like that, I think, or we're supposed to have 13
makes so
months.
much more sense. Yes, follows the moon. Yeah.
Yeah.
The moon cycle.
Yeah. And
that's
I
why
always
we call
thought
it the moons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I always found it funny, because with like and I've heard so many people talk about it too, like October is supposed to be 8, so, and then November, Nov for 9, and Dec for 10. So why are they the 10 10, 11, and 12 and not 8, 9, 10, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and this month was considered the Ostara month. So it's named after her even. I mean, they changed it, but yeah, Ostare.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had to look up how you say that name. It's like East Eso Trey.
I think they say Ostara is how I heard it pronounced, but I don't know.
Well, either way you look at it, I mean, they have whoever they are, the occultists, the magicians who have taken over, who've hijacked religion, and who've hijacked true spirituality, has implemented Easter to disconnect us from spirituality and connect us more to materialism. Where now we're at sugar and candy and toys and eggs and all this other stuff, and fertility, rituals and all this other stuff. But the idea was to disconnect us from spirituality. From that spring is that awakening, that enlightenment time where you start to awaken. And that was symbolic of Christ's resurrection. Was the awakening, was the enlightenment, was the coming, the rising. So that's all they've done is they've just hijacked it, and like everything, they've fed us materialism, and we're just getting fatter, and we've tuned out all the other that disconnect is disconnected us from we have this direct connection to source, and that's sort of disconnected us from that. Alcohol does it, candy, sugar, all this other stuff, porn, all this other stuff disconnects us from our creator. So
what I find fascinating too is that it transcends culture. It's one of those universal stories. And it's kind of like, from the Christian, viewpoint, it's you have what we would call an unholy trinity. And it doesn't matter where you go, you got a father and a mother and a son. And I just wrote down like some examples, which I found one God I didn't know about. And that's why I was texting you guys. I'm like, I found something pretty cool. The German fertility god was Yoster. And its symbol was an actual bunny rabbit.
Really?
But but when you go, and it goes to Inanna, Ishtar, Astarte, what the Bible referred to as the Queen of Heaven, and even in the Bible it talks about Tammuz. That was the sun, and it talked about how the people turned their backs to the temple and faced the east and faced the sun and wept for Tammuz, and how they baked their cakes for the Queen of Heaven. But no matter where you go, I mean, you have Nimrod and Semiramis, Baal and Ishtar, Ishtaroth. Egypt, it's Osiris and Isis. Greece, it's Zeus, Aphrodite. Rome, Jupiter and Venus. Germany, it's Yoster and Tammuz or Damuzi. It's the same story, just different caveats and names throughout culture, man. And it's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's like a lot like Christmas, because even like not conspiratorially, but like when I was a kid, I always thought both of them were weird. I always found it really strange that we expected a man to show up in our house in the middle of the night to give us presents, and now we are expecting this bunny rabbit, this huge man-sized bunny rabbit, to show up in our house in the middle of the night to give us a basket of candy and eggs and frickin' marshmallows shaped like ducks.
So true. And and the whole reason why it's celebrated when it's celebrated is because it happens the Sunday after the full moon after the equinox. Right. And so it's a moon goddess celebration. And, the Grimm brothers were one of the first that kind of put this out there in mainstream. In 1835, they wrote the Dutch mythologies, divinity of radiant dawn is what they talked about. Ostarte or, Ostera, however, Isis, whichever you want to play there. But they did speak about her and wrote a book about all this. So it gets pretty, I don't know how far you guys went in on this, but it gets kind of spicy. We'll say spicy with how they get their worship going on with her. And so they would do sex rituals with virgins, of course, because why not? We always have to have the virgins there, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they would get pregnant, and then the next time they had Easter, they would take the 3-month-old babies that had been conceived at that time and kill them, and then take their blood and color the eggs with them, because red was their favorite color to make the eggs, and that's why they were red. So that's how that all started.
Holy
And
fuck.
yeah, and the cakes of light were menstruation cakes, and the eggs are representative of menstruation, and it gets really weird.
Yeah.
I don't know
One
how
thing I
else to
thought was
say it.
wild looking in there where they was talking about the sexual rites, how like the gods or goddesses would embody the priests and the temple prostitutes, and that was kind of like a divine, conception. But I even read that they said that the belief was for Astarte, Ishtaroth, whatever name you want to throw to it. The belief was to get her to orgasm, and from her orgasm, her secretion covered the lands and blessed it with fertile ground and soil, and also blessed the animals with fertility for the entire year.
Yep.
Wow.
That's what I saw too. Yep, that was next down. So yeah. It gets
That's
weird.
interesting.
Listen, there are pro researchers in this conversation. You're not going to get a lot biased on this stuff. It's just
I find
interesting.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry.
All right. I was just gonna say, I find it interesting how these child sacrifice rituals always end up with them making something red out of it. I mean, we got like the Red Shoe Club or whatever that Macaulay Culkin has talked about, and I don't know. I didn't know that they were coloring the egg specifically red. I heard that they were painting them gold at one point, or maybe put in a gold ribbon. Maybe that's what it was, and they were red. But
I think they
find
tried to make this better, right?
yeah, probably. The child sacrifice thing seems to be in everything, and it really bothers me.
Yeah. And the reason why we never have Passover and Easter on the same time frame is because the Catholic Church changed it, because they did not want those that would celebrate Easter and not Passover to maybe accidentally have them land on the same time frame, just by the moon cycle. And they made it so that would never happen, so that the Jesus wouldn't get that, that celebration toward him. So
That's interesting. I feel like the Catholic Church, not saying anything to anybody who's faith-based in Catholicism, but like I feel like originally, back in the day when they were setting everything up, that they had ulterior motives for their faith. Like I feel like they used it as a mask, in my opinion, and some of them still do. I mean, we have a whole lot of allegations and charges to these priests of sex crimes and stuff, and I don't know. So I think
it's control, power, and greed.
Yeah.
I mean that Rome never left. They just went under the disguise of a religion. And now they can do whatever they want under the disguise of religion, and that's the only way you can explain how they amalgamated every single pagan ritual, every single pagan holiday. And what bothers me is how Christians want to say, I mean, it's a beautiful idea, but I mean, it's bullshit. Is, we stole the day. We reappropriated it. We took it and, and threw down our flag and claimed it for Christ. I mean, that's a good, beautiful thought, you know what I mean? And could it be done? Yes, but you are, in my opinion, whitewashing something very dark and nefarious, that they just basically done this so they could be like, come one, come all, we want all of you guys, because the more we have under our blanket, that's more people we control. that is more money in our collection plates and the more influence that we have over the dominion of earth.
Good. That's a good way of saying that.
Yeah,
Well, they had to do something to make it. It's a mashup, right? Like, I mean, the pagans didn't want to be Christians because they didn't want to let go of the old gods. So what they did is they just combined them and said, "Yeah, you can do that too, man. You can do that too. We can do the red eggs. You want to do the red eggs? Fine. You want the blood for the eggs? We got it." It's just not, it's a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, it like I said earlier, all of this sort of neutralizes our power. That's the whole point of what I was trying to say earlier. It's sort of this subtle mass programming through consumerism, and through also yearly, it's a repetition thing. I mean, they pull out the sweets around Easter time or a month or two before Easter time, and so again, it's the repetition, and then eventually we start to drift as a culture, as a spiritual culture. We start to drift far away to where people don't even know what Easter is even about anymore. So I mean,
well,
it's
and then
intentional.
you get into, there's the two stories, right? There's the one about, Ostara, and then you get into the Nimrod stuff. And it's like the false trinity. It's like, all of the pictures, everything that you see, like with the Christ child and Mary. I mean, you have to wonder, is that Nimrod or is this Jesus? And they even say that this is why we eat ham, because Nimrod was killed by a wild boar. And so why do we eat ham? Because we're eating the pig that he got killed by. So like everything down to the details of your dinner has been laid out for you.
Yeah. I mean, she's the queen of heaven. That's what I was talking about. I mean, the reappropriation, they worship this queen of heaven, and that they took the idols of Ashtaroth and Anana and all these other, like we've been talking about, whatever name you want to slap to it, this bare-breasted goddess suckling the reincarnated version of her husband that she, breastfeeds and rears to adulthood, then turns around and screws him. That's who they're worshiping. They reappropriated this goddess.
So do you think paganism has sort of corrupted Christianity, or not just Christianity, but every religion? Is it paganism that sort of infiltrated all religions? Because that seems to be a common theme.
I think it was their first.
Knowledge.
No, Christianity infiltrated paganism because paganism was already there. And what happened was they just got tired of killing everybody. So they were like, look, what can we do to like make it better so we can all get along? Right. Like,
just
and
blend
that's
everybody
basically
in.
it. Yeah. That's what they did.
But see, I got a theory on that. And, a lot of people talk about, you even said, paganism infiltrating the church, and a lot of people say, well, that Satan, as far as the Christian worldview, has infiltrated the church and destroyed it from the inside out. And a lot of people, atheists and non-believers, will point to a lot of these unholy trinities and similar stories of these dying, resurrecting gods, and how it's associated with the spring equinoxes, and and all these similarities, and use that as a kind of like a gotcha thing, and be like, oh, well, Christ is just another corn king. I see this as a preconditioning of the coming Christ. And I love how Lewis said, Christ was the myth, and a lot of people hear myth and they freak out and think it's just a made up story. No, that's not what a myth is. A myth is a story, but Christ was the myth that became fact. And even if you look at the cross, they thought by killing Christ that's how they would win and take over the dominion of earth. But they shot themselves in the own foot. He allowed them to do that. He allowed them to make their own trap, So I think that's kind of what this is. I think that when these fallen angels rebelled and was kicked out of heaven, they kind of knew bits and pieces of the plan, because even the demons said to Jesus, to the demoniac, he said, have you come to cast us out before our time? So that shows you they knew that there was a time and what the plan was. They just didn't have all the details. So it's like they knew So they were like, okay, we'll come down and we'll pretend to be this dying, resurrecting God, and we'll, you know, lay the groundwork for this deception. That way nobody will believe and accept this guy. But I think once again, it was God allowed them to do this to shoot themselves in the foot, because the thing they done to try to prevent and thwart God's plan, it actually propped it up, because people were more prone to accept a story they were more familiar with.
Well,
Like a
do you guys know
preconditioning.
the pagan roots of Lent, like with associated with all of this? Did you
know
guys see
what?
that?
Since you brought it up, I remember that, but I don't remember exactly the story there.
So it's the mourning period for Tammuz, and it's exactly the same. It's identical time frame, everything, and then they break that fast by taking part in the ham dinner to celebrate the killing in resurrection of Tammuz. And so, you know, that's it, they do exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. For the 40 days, the whole deal, like it's all the same. So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of wild when you look at it and wonder, like, okay, which godhood are we looking at here? Because do you guys know who his father was, right? Like it's Baal, like Baal, Baal.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is concerning when we look at things and say, you know, how many times is it exchanged in the Bible where they put Lord, right? And then who are we talking about sometimes? And the Catholic Church really had a big part in obfuscating all this. Like, you know, they just did. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the problem with like the victor goes the spoils, you know, with our history, because you know our history is literally written by the people that won.
Right.
So
Absolutely. You're
does
not wrong.
so
Yeah.
so if they were in the wrong, they would paint themselves as they were in the right. So there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of missing gaps in when it comes to like when the Saxons and all that stuff, when the crusades and all that stuff, like they were literally just killing people because they believed something different from them.
Yes. And do you guys know the symbol for Tammuz?
No.
It's the
Actually, Brandon
cross.
Kroll was on the yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Brandon
marking
talked to
the
me about that.
equinoxes and solstices.
Yeah.
I mean, I still believe in the cross, but I'm just saying that that makes it curious when, you know, they start doing representations of it for people all the time in the Catholic
Mm-hmm.
Church, you know? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know.
But I see that too as another, you know, stealing from the fallen realm, because God was laying out that symbol to his people even in Exodus. Because if you pay attention, when he was giving out all of his instructions when they were in their wilderness wanderings, even the encampments, you know, he tells, you know, the Levites are going to be here in the center with in the holiest of holies. The Levites are going to be to the east, and you know, laid it all out. And when you actually draw that out and look down, it's a cross.
Right.
And the four tribes that were on the outside, and it even says, you know, this one is north, this one south, east, west. When you get to the blessings of Israel that he gives to his sons, those four tribes that are mentioned, he compares them to animals. And how funny that they are the four cardinal points of the Babylonian zodiac. And when you look at that layout of the Israelite camp, like looking down, it mirrors the heavens with the holiest of holies in the center.
Wow.
So God, I mean, was telling and forecasting the coming of his son and this cross, and even the hidden name of God that the Levites, you know, knew, the priesthood knew, was Yod-He Vav-He, you know, the tetragrammaton. But when you look at it in Paleo Hebrew, it's symbols, and the Yod looks like an arm, and the Yod looks like a nail. And so when you read that out, it says, behold the hand, behold the nail. So God was forecasting this stuff long before. So think about that. The Levite priest was, on the Day of Atonement, was sprinkling the blood on the mercy seat, saying the hidden name of God. Yod He Vav He, behold the hand, behold the nail, in the center of a cross, sprinkling the blood on the mercy seat. So yeah, I mean, you have Tammuz and all these dying, resurrected gods stealing the cross, stealing all this symbology and stuff. But once again, I mean, they stole it, I think, trying to deceive the nations and get them to reject the coming Messiah. But they shot themselves in the foot, I believe. Once again, as they typically do.
Like it. Sounds like it. I mean, so when you were saying that, I kind of like started thinking about, you know how people that have, back in the day, there was no way to communicate from, island to island, and a lot of these people have like different tribes of people have the same lores and stuff. I find it, because you started by talking about the cross and these 4 tribes, and I started thinking about, everything that I've seen through the American Native culture, even at the god damn it, the reservation that my family's from. So like we have this like cross looking thing with 4 dots in each corner that represents four corners, and then they all have the same colors to represent 4 different things. So we got black, white, red, and yellow. Those were the main colors because that's the only colors that they could make back in those days. So I wonder if, like, because they believe they're more spiritual, like everything is alive, but there is a creator thing, like a creator entity, much like God, and I almost wonder if that has any kind of correlation.
Yeah, a lot of them think that some of these tribes were, like lost tribes of Israel that come here during like a diaspora. Chief Joseph Riverwind, I've had him on the show several times, and he was even talking about specifically the Cherokee. He's like an ambassador to the Cherokee Nation because his wife is Cherokee. But he said over there in Israel, they were singing Cherokee songs to the Creator and doing different things. He said, and some Hebrew guy just walks up to him and is like, "Oh, that's amazing. You were singing about Yahuwah and this, that, and the other," and was telling about what they were singing about and everything. He's like, "Oh, you can speak Cherokee?" And he's like, "No, you were singing in Hebrew." And he was like, "No, you were singing in Hebrew." He said, "Some of the stuff I couldn't pick up." He said, "But several of the words I picked up." He said, that's Hebrew." So they were talking about how even the languages are so similar. Even the name of God from Cherokee to Hebrew is almost identical.
Damn, son. My mind is blown right now. Holy shit.
Yeah.
If you look at ancient, so I mean, if you look at all these megaliths all around the world, it's pretty evident that there was a worldwide culture that existed that probably spoke the same language and shared the same knowledge. So, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. I guess we could go down and try to keep it on. And rabbits, I mean,
it's so.
I was gonna say rabbits go down when rabbits are like known to serve as messengers between the conscious world and the spirit, or the warrens of the mind, right? The spirit, or the I don't know what you want to call it, because I'm trying to use the right word here, but it's from the conscious world and from this reality in the conscious world is what I'm trying to say. So
yeah,
they come from the below. I never thought of that. That's a good point.
Yeah. And Tammuz's birthday is also December 25th. So, like,
yeah, that's another thing, that Jesus wasn't born in December.
He was born at tax time. Many postulate that he was born on September 11th, and that has a whole lot to do with your story that we started with.
3 BC.
That's oh my! I heard that too. Actually, I think I heard it on on another podcast that somebody had done some research, and it was a woman, and she was like 100% sure that Jesus was born on September 11th, and it was a pretty interesting talk.
Yeah.
And you
In
know,
Revelation 12, I mean, that's all astronomical. Because
yeah.
it even says it in there. It says, it says, "Behold, these signs were in heaven: a woman clothed in the sun, that's Virgo,
Mhm.
12 stars on her head, that's the constellation Leo, the moon at her feet, the dragon laying in wait to devour the child, that's Hydra." You have all those things line up, and they got that computer system. I can't remember the name of it now, but you can wind the hands of time like a clock, and all those things line up over the Middle East. When you take the moon, it narrows it down to like a 2-minute window, they said, to September 11th, 3 BC, that they believe that was the sign or the star conjunction that the Magi seen.
Mm.
Pretty wild.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, making these holidays, like the way that we celebrate them now, modern and and present day, do you think that we're giving life to the entities that once were, and possibly maybe not, that might not even be a good thing?
Oh, everything is energy. When we talk
Yeah.
about what can pierce the ether, even people like Steiner and different, anthroposophy and Madame Blavatsky, they talk about why you do rituals, which these are rituals, and that they absolutely pierce the ether. So, I mean, I think they have an effect, at what point do they interfere for a Christian? I'm not sure, but it definitely, I mean, if I could do it all over again and I never ever celebrated Easter with my kids, I would not start now at all. I would do Passover.
The time to penetrate the ether, what you're talking about, is in that liminal time, which is the dusk and dawn, basically. That's when, ironically, that's when rabbits are the most, they're crepuscular. That's when they're the most active, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and occultists know this. This is when the veil is that's when the veil is the thinnest. And so they'll do a lot of that's when they do their magic, that's when they communicate with spirits, that's when they have these transformative experiences. But I've talked about this on my show, which is the reason why it's thin is because when the sun is basically charging the atmosphere. Okay, that's how the air glow works. That's why we look up, it's blue, right? So the sunlight charges the atmosphere during the day, and when it goes down, the atoms and the molecules in the upper atmosphere sort of, energize. Or I'm sorry, whenever the sun's out, it energizes the atmosphere, the molecules and the atoms. When it goes away, that's when that time when basically the ether is plasma. That's when the plasma starts to sort of disperse back into its original form of plasma, and then that's whenever you have all these things coming. That's like it goes deep with that, obviously, but it is basically the thinnest, because the sun is, this is where the idea of God's light comes from. Like when you say the name of Christ, these beings disappear because in the name of Christ is the embodiment of that light. So when the sun's out during the day, these entities that exist in the state of plasma or ether, they stay at bay. When the sun shifts, as the sun shifts away, it starts getting dark. All of that loosens back up, and these things start forming back up again. And that's why you have all these things. Dude, there's helicopters and stuff that fly over my house all night long. Like, I got a buddy who lives here in town, and he has like a portal in his house, basically, or like right above his farm. And every time there's an osprey flying over, there's no marine bases nearby, but every time there's an osprey flying over, we text each other, and like, I'm like, what's going on at the farm today? You know what I mean? Because we sort of know that there's these little magnetic field hotspots of energy, these little energy vortexes that sort of spin up as the sun disperses. And again, this is the time when things happen the most, early in the morning and late in the evening as the sun's going down. So again, that's where the idea of this rabbit comes in as a crepuscular. It's the again, they're the liminal idea of transformation between day and night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
to
also
your
the
point,
2 times you can do that, well, for Martinus anyway, are the spring equinox and the fall equinox as well, and this is happening right after that happens, so, yeah.
yeah, and to your
Right after
point
what
too
happens?
about
I'm
The
sorry.
spring equinox, yeah.
Right after spring equinox, what happens?
That's when, well, supposedly on the day of the spring equinox and the fall equinox is the best time to conjure spirits, and that the
Oh,
veil is
gotcha.
not only the thinnest, like with the time of the day, but with the time of the season.
Gotcha.
and I was just going to say that as far as like the Christian side of it, even the changing of the the calendar, the Gregorian calendar, God gives his people these feasts and these holy days, and they're divine appointments. And if you look through scripture, and where we're not, Hebrews, and we don't, know the feasts and the holy days, and we're on the wrong calendar, we're not looking at it through the right lens. But a lot of extremely important events, prophetic events, all happen on very important feasts and holy days. I mean, without fail. When you look in the month of Nisan, the day that Christ comes out of the tomb on resurrection, that is the same exact day that Noah steps off of the boat after the flood. It's you're looking at new beginnings in both situations. And so God tells his people, like that's why he said in Exodus, to perform this ritual, take the lamb, sacrifice it, put the blood on the doorpost. That way the spirit of death will, pass over you. And they were to do this repeatedly year after year, because it was a dress rehearsal, because Christ came on this day. He was the lamb without blemish that they sacrificed, and it was his blood that covered them so death would pass over them. And if they wasn't practicing these and doing these, that they would miss it. And so, Christ came on the spring feasts. So a lot of people say that his return is going to be on the fall feasts. So where you're off of God's calendar, not following these feasts and these holy days, you're not going to be prepared. And what's crazy, if you guys will humor me, I went through Easter just as far as the Bible, and lined up the feasts and stuff to kind of show you how important this really is. Because a lot of people, like I said, if you're not Jewish, you don't follow it and you miss it. It's really amazing when you look at it like this. It says here, Israel was commanded to take a lamb without blemish, and this was a 1-year-old lamb, to sacrifice for the Passover meal on the 14th of Nisan at twilight. We was talking about that just a minute ago. It says Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and that word means the house of bread, and Jesus was the bread of life. And on the 10th day of Nisan, the priest would carry the Passover lamb through the north gate of the temple while singing Psalms 118. At the feast, the Jews usually sing Psalms 114 through 118, and it's called the Hallel, and that's where we get our term hallelujah. But John chapter 12 tells us that 6 days before Passover, Jesus came to Bethany to dine with Lazarus, who he had just rose from the dead. And this was the evening of Nisan the 8th. And the Jewish days, where they're on the lunar calendar, it resets at when the sun goes down. So this was basically the 9th. And verse 12 says that the next day, the 10th, a crowd arrived at the temple, hearing Jesus was headed to Jerusalem. And the people were probably already crowding, because this was the day that the priest would carry the Passover lamb through the north gate to the temple. But this was the big event, and the people were singing this Psalms 118. And one of the lyrics sings, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And if you remember that Bible story where Jesus is coming through the gates, and the people come out with the palm branches, and they're waving it at him, and they say the exact same phrase. And this was the same day, same time. So while the priests were carrying the sacrificial lamb through the north gate, through the east gate the real Lamb without blemish, Jesus Christ, was coming through, and the people were singing this same psalm and waving these palm branches at him. So it was this whole dress rehearsal thing that was going on in real time. And when the Pharisees heard that he'd come into town and was preaching, the scripture says that they sent them out to kind of prove him wrong and catch him in fault and try to prove him a liar. Well, this also goes back to these feasts and these holy days and these practices, because the lamb was to be inspected for 4 days to be sure that it was without fault, without blemish. And when you go through the account in John 12, when he's arrested, where this starts here, from this date till the time that he is put on the cross is exactly 4 days. So he was inspected just like a lamb to see that he was without blemish. And it just goes on and on. I mean, I could go on. I mean, I got all kinds of stuff, but I just don't want to hog up all the time. But even to where when they're nailing him up on the cross, the exact same time, it says it was in the 9th hour. This was the time of the evening sacrifice on the Day of Atonement. And that Psalms 118, it says, bind the lamb to the altar. And so as the priests were performing this sacrifice, singing this psalm, they were literally binding Christ to this cross. I mean, it's just amazing.
It is amazing. That's super interesting. Thank you for sharing.
And they're doing it at certain times of day as well to get that energetic charge from the earth, the alignments of earth with the sun and things like that too. So there's a lot of energy. I mean, Christ was sacrificed or crucified on the 33rd parallel, which I talk a lot about on my show. So there's a lot of like energetic ley lines and energies that happen. A lot of these esoteric things, these sacrifices and things happen, and again, that goes back to what pagans do. They sacrifice a lot too. So
yes, I've always found it interesting that why do they sacrifice so much? There's literally a sacrifice for everything throughout that they do.
They still do it today, through war and child sacrifice and other stuff. They do it.
Yeah. Do you think that because a lot of people attach like a negative thing to, when they say paganism or that somebody's a pagan, that they're like this dark person or whatever, and then it's just like this little blonde girl like, now I'm a Wiccan, or whatever. Do you think that it's do you think that paganism is bad at all? Because obviously, if you're sacrificing children, obviously that's terrible. That's very bad. So, I know these new age movements and all and stuff like that are attached to that with paganism and stuff like that, which, like I said, like Wiccan and stuff, or being a white witch and whatnot. Is there?
If it was good, they wouldn't have to put it in Disney movies and all these other things, and they wouldn't have to brand it in our minds with, holidays, Easter and Christmas holidays and things like that. If it was good, good just feels natural to us. We don't have to. That's light. That's love. And anytime you feel that, anytime someone gives you a compliment, we were talking before the show, it just feels good. And when you give compliments, it feels good. That's what love and light is. That's it. There's you don't have to read like a million different things or study all these different things. It's dark and light. That's it. You either, if you're doing bad things in the name of darkness, then you're on the lower vibrational scale. If you're doing things in the name of light and love, you're on the higher vibrational scale. And anything in between that, all of that is energy manipulation. Everything is to manipulate your energy and forget it, to disconnect you, like I said earlier, from source, from light, from God. We have a direct connection to God. We don't need to pray to statues. We don't need to have lucky rabbit foot talismans and all these other different things. And they're trying to summon something. They're trying to pull something from the ether. We don't have to do all that. All we have to do is look inward, look towards that light within us. That's why when we pray, we close our eyes. And that's why when you hold up your hands, you can feel that energy when you worship God. So all this other stuff is just, they're summoning some kind of, negative energies. They got to do all these different things and make brews and, chop off, this, make homunculuses and all these other things. I don't know, man. But it's pretty simple to me.
My
It's
problem
dark,
with the church,
darkness
though,
and light,
too. Because it said, at the cross, his final words, he said, it is finished. And it talked about, it said the veil, the temple veil was torn from top to bottom. And that veil it was talking about, that was this dividing wall curtain that kept people from entering the holiest of holies. And this was the presence of God. So it was a separation for us from God. So it was even signaling there that dividing wall, that separation between man and God was now gone. And then you get the Roman Catholic Church and these other religions like you were talking about, they're trying to put that wall back up. Right? It's like, oh no, you got to go through this conduit. You got to pray to Mary, do so many Hail Marys and lashes on your back and count these beads and pay this amount of money. And
that's what happened during the Protestant Reformation, right? I mean, that was the whole reason for the Protestant Reformation, the 30 Years' War in the 16th century or the 17th century. That's what that was all about. Protestants were like, no, we don't have to pray to all these things. We don't have to say seven Hail Marys. We don't have to have little smoke things waved in our face and all these other different things. You can access God directly. You don't have, there's nobody you have to go through. And they constantly push that in our faces. You got to go through this. You got to go through that. They want to give us all these rules to live by, but we're free. We're free. We're completely free beings, and our free will is everything. And so their whole goal is to drive our intent, our free will in their direction. And so they're going to do that in whatever way they can, with all the noise, all the manipulation through the media, through whatever. That's what they're going to continue to do, because they can't create. The devil can't create. He can only corrupt. And he can only get people who are creators to create and bring things into this reality. And that's all it is to it. And that's why they got to do all these rituals and stuff. When, again, like I said, all we have to do is close our eyes and look inward and pray to God and just know that he's there and just keep riding that. We don't have to look for it. We don't have to look to governments to control our minds, which is what government means. We don't have to look to anybody else. We don't have to look to a preacher or a priest to ask for forgiveness for anything. We can literally just look within and be good people and, vibrate on that higher level of love and light and stay on there. We don't have to do all this other stuff. And that's the message that I wish was taught in churches. You don't hear that. You don't hear, you don't know who the enemy is anymore in church. They don't talk about the devil enough in church. You know what I mean? Like, or at least the churches I go to, you hardly never hear anything about Nephilim and fallen angels and, Satan. People still don't really know, can't really pinpoint who exactly Satan is, but they know he's the bad guy. But and they know we're in a spiritual war, a spiritual battle, but nobody knows who we're battling. So it's pretty interesting. But the main idea is that it's darkness and light. That's all it is, Yeah.
I talk about this a lot too, and this goes back to what you were talking about a little bit ago about the energy. We only operate off of 5% of our brain. You know what I mean? And so imagine, like, if we were I think that all of this manipulation of holidays, all these psyops after psyops, the media lying and getting us the fear mongering. I mean, I was having this conversation with somebody like a normal person that doesn't think the way that I do, really, but we were talking about politics. And I was like, we're still fighting, normies. Right? We're still fighting about the same shit that we were fighting about back in frickin' before Christ. So, like, we're not moving. We're like, society's not moving anywhere. We're just given new toys, and we're like, society's getting better. But like, I think that like all of this, all the manipulation and all this stuff like that is that stealing our energy has kept us from vibrating at a higher level to where we only use a very small portion of our brain. So imagine like what we would be like if we could access the rest of that.
Yeah, and we're going through that awakening right now. We're realizing that again. We're rediscovering that lightness. That's what revelation is. It's a revealing of our true selves. If someone tells you you're ugly and you let that affect you, then they own you. You're their slave. So that very quickly someone can control you just by saying one thing to you. But you have to take yourself out of that and just go, okay, yeah, thank you for the whatever you just said, right? It's like you don't have to again, man. If someone is bothering you, if you turn on the news, I used to do it. I mean, I would sit there and watch. I would drink beer and just sit there and watch the news. You stupid liberals or whatever, you know what I mean? But I realized that I was being manipulated the whole time. Like I was, being controlled, and I was their slave because I was letting them do that. My energy is unique to me. Nobody can take that away from me. That is God-given light and energy and love that I have. Nobody can take that away from me. So anybody who stands on my path to, take that away from me, I push them aside and I just ignore them. I don't even pay any attention anymore. It does bother me to a certain degree, but I don't get up in arms about it,
I think it's funny that people never want to just talk to God on their own, because like in all of the greats that we know, like John Dee, all these people that, were all about God at first, and then there was like a whoop, they went that way. And it's because they wanted more, right? They're like, it can't be that simple. Like we just talk to God. That's not good enough, right? And Jesus literally told us like, hey, I died and I came back. Now it's all hung on the cross. And what's the one thing he said to us? And people will fight you about this, even Christians, right? And I'm sure you guys know.
Me.
No, Brown, Doc Brown, what was it?
What, the greatest commandments?
Just
love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbors. You love yourselves.
Yes,
love fulfills the law.
Love one another. And here's the thing, Christians will say, well, then what about the 10 Commandments? I'm like, would you do any of that shit if you loved each other? No, you're not stealing people's wives, and you're not killing people. You're not stealing money. You're helping each other up. Like, I mean, come on, if you really deep down loved somebody, you're not going to do any of that bad stuff. So he didn't feel it necessary.
Shout out to Trebles Garcia. Yeah. Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Hashtag look it up.
I mean, it's so funny to me that people will argue about this that are Christians. And I'm like, look, it took Jesus dying to take it all away, to say, look, you got a direct pathway to God. Here it is. Here's how you do it. And guess what we did? We literally got freed from religion. And within like a very short period of time, we became slaves again.
Yeah, Satan put us right back in the chains. Or we willingly put ourselves back in the chains.
Yeah, but I was going to say they control our free will. So we willingly do it. No, there's no doubt about that.
I bet Jesus is just like hitting his head against a wall sometimes. Like I would.
But before we go, hey, I want to hit you guys with this because it takes full circle to the thing I was talking about, the cross in the wilderness, the sacrificial things all tying in. Drop caps in your old English Bibles. A lot of people look at those and just think those are just decorative, and that's, pretty little twisty big letters. Mm-hmm. But no, they copied that from the Hebrew Bible. And with the Hebrew language, those letters or symbols, they have meanings to them. There's some symbology and some esoteric stuff, and they used that in their scrolls and their books. It was like a style of writing they used. And basically that was like a headline on a newspaper, and it was a style of writing they did. So they knew when they're writing something, that first letter was to symbolize the subject matter of the scroll or the thing they were talking about. So for instance, Genesis, the first symbol is a bet. Well, in Hebrew, that bet is a symbol for home. So Genesis right there, any Hebrew person reading that, as soon as they seen that first letter, they knew this was a book about home. So when you get to John chapter 19 verse 22, this is that scene where they're making the nameplate of Jesus. And the Pharisees are just pissed. They're like, no, you can't put that. You got to change it. And what it said in there that they wrote Jesus's nameplate. This nameplate was basically your charge papers. They hung this above the cross. That way, whoever passed by, they seen your name and what you were being killed for. And it said they wrote it in Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. That way, everybody knew what was up. And that it read, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. And the Pharisees said, no, you must change it. You must change it. Put that he said he was King of the Jews, or he claimed he was King of the Jews. And Pilate, in this text, he just says, I have written what I have written. And once again, well, we're not, Jewish. It's lost to us. But that drop cap thing comes into play. And that's why they got so pissed off. Because when you take that and you look at the very first letter of each of those words, when you take them out and put them together, it's the tetragrammaton. It's the name of God. Yod-He, Vav-He. So they killed him for claiming to be God. And even his nameplate proclaimed him to be. And it comes full circle. The Day of Atonement, the Levite priest in the holiest of holies, sprinkling the blood on the mercy seat, saying the hidden name of God. Behold the hand, behold the nail, Yod-He, Vav-He. There he was on the cross, had the name of God written above his head. And the priests, the final thing they would say when they sprinkled the blood, they would say, it is finished. And that was the last dying words of Jesus Christ on the cross.
It is finished.
Everybody who preaches love, think about it. They're all suicided or executed, or Martin Luther King Jr., John F. Kennedy, Christ. Everybody who's talking about love is murdered. John Lennon. There has to be some, the common denominator is all of them talking about love. Well, someone wants to prevent that. So we don't build the same anymore. We used to build buildings that complemented nature and its surroundings. It was beautiful. It was beautiful architecture, and we built with sound. We could speak creation. That's why you see these things. And I'm not saying that we are God in that regard or anything like that, but I'm saying God gave us the ability. He created us in his image. We are creators, and Christ spoke everything into existence. Right. And so when you were talking about those drop caps, that's those letters, every letter of the alphabet, literally, you guys can look this up. I'm not just making this up. This isn't woo-woo information. When you speak, it creates these little toroids of energy that come out of every single letter. Every single vowel creates a toroid of energy that comes out, and it has a vibration, has its own magnetic field. So when you are, and this is why they have, they've corrupted our language. This is why you have homophones, right? The word right. Yeah. I mean, how many ways can we spell right? Right? The ritual right, write the word or write with a pen, and then, like the your right hand.
Way.
Yeah, the right way. So when they say stuff like you have the right to remain silent, for example, what are we really saying? Because the word right might have a totally different meaning to it. So they've corrupted language as well. And we have to be very aware of that, because everything we speak, everything we think creates worlds. I mean,
and to your point, what do they call it when you put words together? They call it spelling.
Right.
I mean, it's there for us.
But we are, light beings. Like, we are created in God's image, and God and Christ was trying to tell us that. He was trying to say, hey guys, y'all are amazing. Y'all have this ability. They've taken this away from you. And of course they're going to kill him over something like that. They don't want nobody to know that. You're going to give all the secrets away.
You're not, no, it's not even the secrets. Then you're not going to pay your tithing or your whatever they call it for Catholics. Like it's all about money at the end of the day, because then they can't control you by two things: money and power. And like you said, this goes back to the ugly, because if they can control you by saying you're bad, you're a bad person, you need to go to church more because you're bad, you're going to go, because guilt is powerful. powerful.
Guilt and
your
shame.
Some of the
energy.
reading.
I mean, listen, your energy is the only currency. So when you go to work every day and you tell someone, if you go to work for someone and they say, I'm going to pay you $10 an hour, that's how much you're telling them that your energy is worth. And so they know that the only real currency in this world, I've heard Sam Tripoli talk about this a number of times. They already have all the money and the power. What more could they want? It's pretty evident. They want your energy, right? So like, that's the only real currency in this world. And they will do anything to keep you at bay.
That's right.
The awakening, like I said, is happening. The revelation and the light is coming, is winning. And they know that, and they're desperate. They're scratching at, they're clawing at it.
And before we wrap up Easter, I do want to mention the red heifers in the temple, since this is a big deal right now here with this season. You guys know this is the year they have to do it because it's the 4th year. So, I mean, it can't be nothing, because here's the deal. Even if we as Christians know that has nothing to do with us, they believe it. It's important to them. So we have to be aware of what's going on, right? Like,
absolutely.
What do you guys think about all that?
I don't think anything about it. I don't think they have that power. I think Christ already made that sacrifice for everyone.
Well, for sure, but the wars and the chaos it's going to create between, the last war is supposed to be between the Jesuits and who? You guys, this is going to kick this off. I mean, like, I'm not talking about for us as Christians and our love and who we follow, right? But this is going to have implications in the world.
Global ramifications.
Yes.
Which, I'm not as well versed as some of you guys in the Bible, but I do know, like, that in Revelation it talks about the army that's going to come from afar, and they call it Gog and Magog, right? Well, that you were talking about the ether earlier. That ether is this firmament that's around us. It's that plasma that's around us. Gog means roof, and Magog means of the roof. So if we're talking about a firmament above us, we're talking about Gog and Magog. We're talking about a roof over our heads right now. Whatever then that's part of the veil thinning, right? That we were talking about a while ago. All of that's getting much thinner, and we're going to start seeing. That's why you're seeing plasmoids in New Jersey, these drones and stuff that are appearing out of nowhere, because that veil is just getting thinner, and we're going to start seeing more and more and more of that stuff. And they're just trying to mask it off and try to pretend like it doesn't exist, but
Yeah,
well,
that's wild. I never heard that. I'd love to have that conversation with you, because even Revelation, where it talks about that war, during that great battle, it says at the Jordan that that God will block the way of the Jordan, and the reason why is he said he would block the way of the travelers. And a lot of people's like, oh, that's the people that are traveling in the army. But when you read the old ancient texts, they had like resurrection texts and these rituals and stuff around Bashan. And they referred to travelers. And what they would do is they would summon their dead ancestor spirits, the Rephaim, the Nephilim, and dawn, that these travelers, the spirits of their dead ancestors, would ride in the abyss, in the land of Sheol, the land of the dead, for 3. It said they would ride, the travelers would ride for 3 days. And on dawn, at the 3rd day, they would cross the veil. I think that's what they were talking about.
Yeah,
and
they're coming from the abyss. They're coming from
Gog and Magog with the plasma firmament, kind of thing. I've never heard that. That's pretty wild, and it kind of correlates.
Yeah, I mean, Gog and Magog is that those are the Hebrew words for roof and of the roof. So that's like I said, I wish I knew more about the Bible, because I don't know all the cross references and things like that. That's where I fail.
Same.
Just this update of the 3rd temple being built, though. I mean, the red heifer thing has not happened in thousands of years where they've had a perfect specimen where they can actually do this. This is a big deal. Like, this is like unprecedented. Like, they have people that they call in just to examine if they get one hair that comes out of the same pore, right? That's not perfectly red. Like, this has been years and years and years of that's like their job. Like, this is unprecedented to have this many. So they're just sitting there waiting, and then the third temple gets built, and then what, it's supposed to be the coming back of Jesus. And so,
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
Jesus is already the Messiah. So who are they sacrificing to bring back?
This
That's
is
the
what
question.
that's
You're right.
exactly
So
the
like,
discussion I want to have. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, this is concerning, the second coming is what they're talking specifically of, but it feels so man-made. I mean, yes, I do feel like we're in an
Well, it
enlightenment
is.
period, but I feel like it's fake in a lot of ways because they're like, oh, you guys want enlightenment? Guess what? Look under the pyramids. But you know what? Those x-ray machines can only go down so far. That's not even that doesn't even go down that far. That's a lie. That's a lie. As a nurse and
It's man-made,
studying,
manufactured, because that
yeah,
temple has to be built, because why? The prophecy is the man of perdition, the Antichrist, has to stand in that temple and proclaim to be God. It's
right.
all man-made, manufactured by the Antichrist, because that's once again, full circle. It's the battle of light and dark, and man, or Satan, working through mankind to manufacture this utopia.
And with his point with the Gog and Magog bit, that's very interesting because then it reminds me of another war of heaven. I mean, is that going to open up to another realm that we're going to be fighting? Like, that is very curious to me. That is very
So,
curious. Yeah.
well, that's what I was talking about with the air glow earlier. Up above us is all ionosphere, which is just plasma. There's 3 layers of the ionosphere. We don't go beyond the ionosphere. That space shuttle that's out there, that thing, or the ISS, that's in the ionosphere. That's all plasma. So when we point satellites to space, they're not going to outer space. They're bouncing off the ionosphere and they're coming back to whatever other receiver is on the other end. So that plasma above us is what I'm talking about. That's the ether. They've taken the name plasma, or they've taken the name ether out of the textbooks in the early 1900s with the what are the Rockefellers, the Rockefeller Foundation, the General Education Board of 1905. They
of course
came
they
in
did.
and
Why? Because of Tesla. You know why?
the ether was
Free
is the
energy.
spiritual discussion that we're having right now. It is the ether is plasma. The plasma didn't come along until 1928, so they're synonymous. So when someone says plasma, that's what they're talking about. Ether is all around us right now. That's what we're swimming in. We're like fish in this. Fish don't realize they're in the water. We're in this ether. And that's how these things can see all around us. I mean, we exist in this little fraction, this little 0.0035% of light, and everything else is in that spiritual world is 99.965% of light. I mean, of the dark matter, the antimatter of us. We're made in his image. We're in this visible light. We're in this rainbow of colors. We are human, HUE-MAN. And so we exist in this light. Everything wants to come in and corrupt that. And so I think in short, I think that we are in this Garden of Eden right now, so to speak, and we are in God's light, and we're protected by him, and we're going to be continuously protected by him. They've been trying to do this forever, but they exist in that 99.965% around us, that antimatter, that anti-ether, and they're trying to get in here. That's why you see stuff in like Stranger Things and stuff like that, the upside down. That's what they're talking about.
Steiner. They're talking about Steiner's work. And Steiner does a great job explaining this. I mean, because it's hard for people to understand. And I get what you're saying because I've read Steiner's work. But I mean, of course, what do? They quiet the people that talk about things like that. Tesla talked about ether. Steiner talked about ethers. All these people that dared to kind of speak out, they're gone. And they not only silenced them, destroyed their work or made them seem crazy or whatever they wanted to do. It's just not. But we know that there's certain factions that have the top of it answered. And I do believe one of those people is Donald Trump, simply because of the relationship of his Uncle John with Tesla, period, dot. I mean, he was, underneath the whole thing for Tesla. Like, he was. Like, I mean, Vannevar Bush was Tesla's protege, and his Uncle John was that guy's protege. So they sent him in first when all this went down, and he died because they were afraid they were going to get blown up, which is hilarious.
John's got the time machine.
But exactly.
Well, you
exactly.
And you can refer to that book. I think I've talked to, I might have talked to Justin about it too, but I know I talked to Heidi about it. That was written back in the day, where there's a Baron Trump, the Adventures of Baron Trump, and his mentor's name's Don. Did you know that there's a character in there named Fayette Pence as well?
Oh, very
Pence.
interesting.
So, and it's really interesting too, because Rudolph Pence, do you know who that is? It's one of Mike Pence's great grands or whatever. So he went missing, apparently, and then showed up randomly. Well, so all right. So he went missing in like the early 1900s, appeared in like the 50s, and this guy that looked exactly like Rudolph Pence, got the same age and everything of when he went missing in the early 1900s, went crazy at everything that he saw, ran across the street and got hit by a car and died. And they're trying to figure out who this guy is, and he has all this old timey clothes. I mean, well, to 50s is old timey clothes, but I mean, and he they surmise that he time traveled. They went, because from what they could find, his name was Rudolph Pence, and so they went to the wife of Rudolph Pence, who is now in her 70s or something like that. And she was like, yeah, he went missing, and we don't know, we don't really know what happened to him. And they showed him a picture of him, and she showed them a picture of him, and they're like, this is the exact same guy. And apparently this Rudolph guy did know Tesla as well. So,
well, and I only bring this up because Werner von Braun wrote a book about somebody named Elon that was going to go to Mars before Elon Musk was ever born. So we have to look at these things that are like in play, is all I'm saying. Like, yes, we are saved by Christ and that stuff, but it's going to affect us because, stuff's coming down the pipes. It isn't all glory when all this stuff hits the fan. There is going to be a coming culling of the Christians, and I'm sorry, but the ones, I pray that I'm going to be sucked up, and taken out before, but let's just talk about it if we don't,
Jesus straw.
I mean, the people that don't, it's not good, sharp blades a whacking like people's heads off. So I don't know. Yeah.
And talking about, oh, sorry, Brad, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say again, the light disperses the plasma. It disperses the plasma back into its soup-like state. Okay, It electrifies it. It keeps it from forming up. When the sun goes away, these things try to form back together quickly, which is why they are getting help by our government. All these people like Pence, like you mentioned a while ago, they work with these things to get technology and medicine and all this stuff. But their goal is to keep. That's why they have underground bases. That's why they have USOs or underground water bases. That's why they have underground caves in the mountains and stuff like that. And that's why these things are encased during the day. That's why they look like spheres during the day, because these spheres protect them from the light. So again, God's light. That's why when you say the name of Christ, these things disperse. So again, everything is dark and light. I just keep driving that home.
I totally get it. I just know that this is the Easter that is really in play with these red heifers. So the people that know and follow what I'm saying and about this third temple being built and all this, it's a big, huge ordeal right now with Easter, and that's the only reason why I brought it up. But it's interesting. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Hopefully. nothing. Hopefully, maybe the heifer isn't perfect, and then they can't use it.
There's 4.
Oh, fucking
They've
A.
all been, they've all been qualified. They're qualified for years. They have to wait for years.
Son of a gun. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll go
we
there and
just
start
have
screaming at those red
following-
heifers, stress them out, and give them some gray hair.
If you touch them,
Somebody tell them they're ugly.
Yeah, we get to ride them, then it will mess them up. But they're like protected like
shit.
crazy. But yeah, we
That's
all
so
know that
weird.
Revelations has got a lot in there about this kind of stuff. So it's interesting.
We could go for another 2 hours with that for sure.
Oh, we won't go there. I'd get you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's wild.
I want to start reading the Bible. The last time Justin was on, I told him that it almost seems like God seems to be reaching out to me right now. And the more people that I talk to, like the 3 of you, and Drewski is one of them for sure, and Riley and stuff like that. Like, I think there is like I have this like weird feeling of like I want to get baptized, and I know that doesn't make me more like closer to God or anything. I just know that forming a relationship with Him is what's going to bring me closer. But my son has randomly started talking about God, and he's created a TikTok where he shares scripture and stuff
Nice,
like
dude.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
and he's asked me for Bibles. My daughter all of a sudden, because I've been talking to my son about God and stuff, then she's told her mother, she's like, instead of getting me a tablet, I want a Bible for Christmas and stuff like that. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? And I just feel like the two of the most important things of my life are now like talking about God. Like, I feel like there's something to that. And I mean, obviously He knows me. He knows that I care about them so much, and that's how He's speaking to me. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. So
It's awesome.
That's great.
I think
man.
that's the sign of the times
I'm
as
proud of
well.
you,
I
dude.
think, even children understand the importance of this time, and it's not weird to feel like you want to be baptized. You know what? I did it, and I already technically was through the LDS church, but it doesn't have to be in a church. I did it in a reservoir because I felt like that was more connection with where I'm at in my journey. So, and it doesn't have to be like people make it either. Like, you literally could have a normal person help you with that. So it doesn't have to be a priest. It doesn't have to
Spiritual
be
warfare. It's a declaration of war. You know, I mean, that's probably why you're getting that tug, honestly, because it's planting your battle flag, letting the enemy know which team you're batting for.
Yeah, I feel that. All right, guys, this was an awesome chat. I really appreciate
fun.
all of you. If you don't mind, one last time letting everybody know who you are, where they can find you, and we'll start with Heidi.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for having me. I love everybody on this panel. I always have a fun time talking to everybody. So thank you for that. And Unfiltered Rise, everywhere podcasts are served. Also, if you do a search for Heidi Luv, Heidi Luv, you'll find a lot of shows that I don't post of my own to my page because that's weird for me. So find those out there, right? And unfilteredrisepodcast.com. And I'll see you guys there.
Nice. Well, Heidi, I adore you, and thank you so much for doing this. And Justin, if you don't mind going ahead and letting everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, Prometheus Lens podcast, same thing anywhere you can find podcast stuff. Just search up the name, you'll be able to find me there. And I'm that weird guy that posts my podcasts from everybody. I throw up all of my content. More content, baby. Glutton. Get it.
I love it.
Maybe I should.
You should. It's more content, man. That way all your listeners can get, it's a one-stop shop, baby.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Convenience store.
Go ahead, Brad.
I think we ought to leave everyone on this note as well. The rabbit is a trickster. It's a shapeshifter. So the idea of the Easter bunny being a rabbit, it's designed to lead you down another rabbit hole and get you, again, off the spiritual path of awakening in Christ and light and love and all the other stuff. So remember that anytime you see Easter or rabbits in the esoteric and the occult world, that means that it's a symbol of chaos and it's trying to drive you away from the path of light and love. Okay. So, but anyways, you guys can find me at theawakenedpodcast.com. All of my links are on there. I have my own little link tree on there as well. I don't actually have a link tree, but I'm not big on like YouTube and Rumble and all that stuff. There's a reason why I do that. I do web design and marketing for a living. So I know the kind of corruption that's involved with shadow banning and all that stuff. Like I see it every day through search engine optimization and things like that. We talked about it a little bit before the show. So, but you can find me at my website. It's probably the best place to go. And also find me on Spotify and Apple. And also, if you guys don't mind, can I plug 2 more shows, 2 friends of mine?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
You okay with that, Kevin? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rivals from Codega's Codex of Curiosities and my buddy Cesar Pagan from the Beyond the Frequency 369 podcast. Go check those guys out as well. Awesome shows, awesome guys. So
nice, man. Nice, man. Well, again, guys, I appreciate you taking the time. You know, time is our greatest currency, and the fact that you guys came and spent this time with me, it absolutely means a lot to me. And I appreciate all 3 of you. Love all 3 of your shows. I listen to all of your shows as much as I possibly can. There's so many podcasts out there, but I do make it a point to get to your guys's, and I just wanted to let you know that I am also a fan. So I am especially appreciative that you guys did this with me today. But as for the listeners, thank you for listening. If you don't mind, like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. If your podcatcher does not allow you to leave a review, you can leave one on my website, wheretheweirdonесarepodcast.com. That is also where you can get merch like this shirt, my hat, the shirt behind me. You can also get hot sauce, coffee, and supplements. And you can also find things that I write, because I do that a little bit. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you have a good night, good day, whatever time you decide to listen to this. And remember, question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish.